Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and I'm joined by Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I talk a lot too.
Oh man, do we ever? Sean is unfortunately not with us this week. He is on he's on cracker duty.
Yeah.
You see, there were some of the crackers had a
duty sounds like a bathroom problem.
I got a little bit of cracker duty I got to take care of. Could you watch my station for 10 minutes? It's terrible. But no, he's off doing the things that he needs to do. You know what? I'm going to give the audience some fun facts here, Bruce. Adam's bringing fun facts to the audience. This song, Paula Abdul's "Cold Hearted," music video directed by David Fincher.
Very good music video. I had it on VHS. Remember when you could go buy one music video on a VHS?
Yeah, it was nuts. Fincher did well over 50 music videos. Just a ton of stuff. I mean, the Vogue video, that was a huge one. He did several.
Oh, yeah.
He did several for Madonna, several for Paula Abdul. I think he did most, maybe not Opposites Attract. I don't think he did NC Scatcast. Oh yeah, Fincher's 60 maybe.
Yeah, I thought he was a little bit younger than that.
But man, he started at ILM and everything when he was 18, and that's why he's so good at all the special effects, and he knows everybody's job better than they know their own job, and that's why he's as good as he is. He's the best.
So what kind of resume do you have to get hired at ILM at 18?
I think just
you
tenacity.
Just show up and they hire you.
Well, back then they did. Yeah, it's back then in 1980 they would do anything and just go all right. But he had this whole group of people that were just these renegades like him and Michael Bay and a whole bunch of other guys who directed all these music videos and stuff. They made a ton of money. But
yeah.
Cold-Hearted Snake, because this week we're talking about Snake Eyes. Oh, see, we get it around eventually. Eventually we come back to it. But this week they launched G.I. Joe. What's the proper name for this thing?
I think it's Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins.
Okay. Didn't they learn anything from X-Men Origins Wolverine?
Yes, that's why they put the origins after the colon.
So the idea was you put that at the end of it, and then somehow it makes the movie the opposite of what the Wolverine was.
Exactly,
and it worked out perfect. I think we'll talk all about that coming up here. But we do want to say a big giant thank you to the people who help support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get the pre-show, post-show, and of course, Dinger Zone. We are at a brand new month here, but today was busy. Today was very busy. If you listen to the Dinger Zone, you'll know all about our busy times and pre-show and all that kind of crap. We talk all about how we're all very, very tired. But you get all of those fun things because Bruce and I, we talked a little bit about Scarlett Johansson's time with Marvel trying to get some money back. And we also talked a little bit about a laser-mounted armadillo. So if you want to hear about all of that kind of stuff, help support this show and keep us chugging here week after week. What are we on? We're 7 years at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts.
It's a solid 7.
And we don't say this enough, and I feel like top of the month is always the best thing because that's the Patreon stuff. But seriously, we really appreciate all of you guys listening to this show. There's so many of you that have been here for so long, which is awesome. And for those of you that are new, welcome. You've got a giant back catalog to go check out. But it means a lot. And I don't think that, we thank you guys, I think. But I don't know that we do it nearly enough. And I just want to say thank you to all of you because your support means a whole heck of a lot. The advertisers that we have had on this show previously either don't like us or we're not producing enough for them. But I won't take any advertising unless that money would be greater than what we would be getting from the Patreon people. And nobody's offering that. So as far as I'm concerned, you guys don't need to listen to 45 minutes worth of ads for crap that frankly you probably don't even want. All we ask.
No. Ooh, that 45 minutes is awful.
Some of them are like that, bro. It's bad news. But if you like this content, if you like what we do here, go over to patreon.com/HMP. Whatever level you decide to sign up at, you get all of this stuff. It's all included in there. But just whatever it means to you, whatever if this show disappeared tomorrow and it was gone, what would you do to get it back for a month? That's essentially it. It's pretty easy. So
I like it when you put it that way.
Yeah,
Very affordable.
Because there's
very affordable way to support.
Exactly. It's just called, man, if my favorite podcast went away, and I would like to think that we're somebody's favorite podcast, but if that went away, what would I do to be like, oh God, I'd do that. I'd love to get that show back for a month. Just put that in a dollar form, send it patreon.com/HMP, and we'd like to thank all of those people for doing that, man.
And unlike multi-level marketing scams, you actually get what's promised.
Yeah, you do. You get those things every week, and it's fun stuff. You get a little behind the scenes action over here. But if you can't do that, if you can't support us at patreon.com/HMP, all we ask is share the show with your friends. I know that you've got nerd friends that are just like you. Share this show with them. We'd really appreciate it. And if you can't even do that, if you don't even have any friends, first of all, I cry for you. I weep. I weep deeply that you have no friends. But if you don't have any friends, at least you could do is go over and review us on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
Oh, boy, it's been a while. We got a couple here.
Oh, wow.
Well, let me read a couple.
I've got a hot take real quick, though. I think iTunes, I think iTunes isn't like the...
It's not the premier
beacon
thing
of
anymore.
Podcast communication that it once was. It used to be just a given that even if you didn't listen on iTunes, it made sense to go leave a review there.
Mm-hmm.
I think now that's just not the case. I think in general, reviews on Apple Podcasts are way less frequent than they used to be for everybody.
That's true. Now, here's the reviews that you wasted your time on, according to Bruce.
No, they're worth even more now because they're even more special if you do it now.
Oh, I like that angle. That's much better than these people wasted their time. I like that one. Let's go with that one. This one comes to us from Not Modoc. And it's entitled The Watchers, but one has something. I don't know. iTunes cut it off. 5 stars. Discovered this show through Bruce's various podcasts long ago. As long as these guys are not reviewing MODOK on Hulu, they are incredibly entertaining and mostly right. I imagine them sitting around a table like Marvel's Watchers, but one has a beard and one always agrees with me, and the other one is probably on the Stallone watch list. Heck, I bought an iPhone just so I could leave a humdinger.
See? More special.
Got that right, boy. Love the show. You guys are the greatest. Eric B., 100% not MODOK.
Thank you, not MODOK, Eric B.
We got another one here. Bruce, you'll remember this. Back in the day, we had like kind of a campaign of steal your mama's phone.
Nana's phone.
It was Nana's phone. Well, it was anybody's. I think it started as Nana's. Phone. Yeah, steal Nana's phone and go give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Nana don't know you. She don't even know she got a podcast app on there. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, just pick that bad boy up, subscribe to us, throw a 5-star review in there, and that's fine. That's what we want. So, but we've had a listener, we also have a Patreon supporter who's taken this to another level. This one comes to us from Son of Spider Z.
Nice.
It's entitled, My Dad Made Me Write This.
Wow, go both directions with the reviews. I love it.
My dad, Spider Z, made me subscribe and leave this 5-star review.
Well, thank you, Spider Z Jr.
Son of Spider Z, we really appreciate that 5-star review. And we also appreciate you, Spider Z, for bringing up your children the right way. With HMP in the house.
I like to picture Spider Z's about 60 and it's his adult child in his 30s that he may do that.
Sounds like. All right. And this last one here comes to us from Tin Mork. That's it. That's better. 5 stars. Just what I needed. Hero Movie Podcast has become my go-to pod recently. I don't know what it is, but something about the interplay between these guys makes me laugh. I also love that it's made in Georgia, and as a resident of Atlanta, I love that. Well, not all of us are Atlanta. Just Sean's in Atlanta. I don't know. He might be there right now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he's
in the wind.
He does contract work making these crackers, so he could be anywhere.
You got to go across all the country and inspect all the cracker factories. If you don't do that, my God, you got some inconsistent crackers, and nobody likes that. I want them all uniform. Put them in that sleeve and just kind of chomp them down like a wood chipper. That's what I do with the crackers. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Tim, thanks for the Tin Mork. Thanks for the review there. We really appreciate it. And again, 5-star review on iTunes if you like it, or wherever the heck that let's say you have it on a place that I don't go to that has reviews. do that. Or again, share it with a friend. We don't care. So all that kind of good stuff. Patreon.com/HMP. That's where you really go. Okay, everybody. Like I said, we this week we decided to cover Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. And that came out last week, but we're going to review it this week. So here is the trailer for Snake Eyes.
Push boy! Boss wants to see you.
In trouble?
Someone is.
This man betrayed our trust. Do it.
You saved my life. We are going home.
I don't have a home.
Not yours. Mine. I can't change your past. But I can offer you a purpose. For 600 years, our ninja have brought peace to the world. I believe in you.
All right, what do I have to do?
I gotta get in my zone now. The 3 challenges of the warrior. I'm on a new level.
The 3 challenges in the what now?
If you survive, you will gain access to our knowledge and our power.
Cobra is coming.
What's Cobra?
A shadow organization devoted to global revolution.
I've been following you for some time.
Do I know you?
I know you, Snake Eyes.
Join us. This is your destiny.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do we got this week?
Well, there's no question about it. In comic books, Snake Eyes is indeed a real American hero. Also, he's not allowed to wear a Yankees hat. It's true. I looked into a deal to possibly write a Snake Eyes novel once, and one of the rules is that he isn't allowed to wear a Yankees hat, or in any way can it be implied he's a Yankees fan. And man, I kind of wish Sean was here for this. But the reason why is that the Hassenfeld brothers, the founders of Hasbro, are from Providence, Rhode Island, and they were diehard Red Sox fans. And as the old saying goes, Red Sox fans hate the Yankees. Well, that's not really an old saying, is it, Adam?
It's just
kind
true.
of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this makes things kind of interesting because the comic book writer who breathed life into Snake Eyes is Larry Hama, and he's a New Yorker. I guess for the sake of the G.I. Joe family, I really hope he's a Mets fan, but I don't really have any way to know. Now, something else pretty much everyone knows about Snake Eyes is that he's all lovey-dovey with Scarlet and that he's whatever the opposite of lovey-dovey is with Storm Shadow. But what's the source of the beef with these two ninjas? Well, Larry Hama is a Vietnam combat veteran. So the story of Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow starts in Nam. The two guys were part of the same unit that took heavy fire from the Viet Cong, and Snake Eyes was badly injured, and the commanding officer ordered him to be left behind. But Storm Shadow said no way and rescued his future nemesis. You see, in the comics, Storm Shadow saved Snake Eyes' life and not the other way around. When Snake Eyes got back to the States, he found out his family had been killed in a car crash involving Cobra Commander's brother, because it's a crazy world out there.
I got into a fender bender with Cobra Commander's brother, and now we got insurance coming out the wazoo.
With nothing to keep him at home, a heartbroken Snake Eyes accepted an offer to study the ninja arts with Storm Shadow's family, the Urashikage clan.
Ooh.
The two became sword brothers, which sounds oddly sexual if you think about it. And they became rivals for the attention and favor of Storm Shadow's uncle, the Hard Master, which also sounds kind of dirty. Now, during one of Snake Eyes' training sessions, the Hard Master expressed his desire for Snake Eyes to take over leadership of the Arashikage clan instead of Storm Shadow. That's when Hard Master was assassinated by Cobra. You see, Cobra Commander wanted to get revenge for his brother in that whole car crash thing. But instead of killing Snake Eyes, Zartan killed Hard Master because, let's face it, Cobra are kind of total screw-ups. Like, no self-respecting terrorist organization could ever consistently lose to a force that only has one helicopter pilot, you know? Well, anyway, the assassin's murder weapon just happened to be one of Storm Shadow's arrows, so the White Ninja was kind of framed for the murder of his uncle. The Ninja Clan dissolved. Snake Eyes went to live on top of a mountain until he was eventually recruited by G.I. Joe. Now, here's where the comics get cool. Storm Shadow joined Cobra in order to discover who really killed his uncle. And when he found out it was Zartan, the guy in white dumped Cobra like a bad date with a BO problem. He made amends with Snake Eyes, and in the comics, he joined G.I. Joe. That's the kind of action you can only get in the comics. That never happened in the cartoons or the movies. So, Adam, now you know, and well, there's no way I wasn't going to say it. Knowing is half the battle.
I wish I had a G.I. Joe drop right now. I'd push that bad boy. I should have thought of that ahead of time. There you go. Fair enough.
Sounds just like the real thing.
It's perfect. Bruce, if your stuff didn't whet everybody's appetite for Snake Eyes, let me tell you everybody a little bit of something about what happens in this movie. This movie's got everything in it. It's got Henry Golding. It's got that other guy. And it's got a whole bunch of fighting. That's about all this movie has, as far as I can tell.
Henry Golding. It's got that other guy. Oh, man. So I couldn't help it. I just going to talk a little bit about Henry Golding because I never saw Crazy Rich Asians.
I didn't either because it was just
with it.
Here's the thing. I heard it's, for what it is, the type of movie that it is, which is just like, your kind of your romantic movie. But, the twist is like it's all an Asian family and like there's a lot of it seemed pretty interesting. It was overly long. I think that's the main reason I didn't see it. It's like 2.5 hours. I was like, ooh.
It was a super successful movie.
Very successful.
Budget too.
Yeah, exactly. And so, he's the charming lead in that movie and everything. And I like him a lot. I've seen him in a couple of things. I'm trying to think of what the other one was right off the top of my head, but it's not clicking. But he's really great. And I thought he was a great addition to this role. I think he's got just a fantastic look and a really good presence about him. I buy it all.
I'm going to tell you what I was feeling the whole time I was watching him. I was kind of feeling like a Carl Urban vibe coming from him.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I could see him playing lots of different roles, too, the way Carl Urban is kind of, I wouldn't say he's a cinematic chameleon, like you always know it's Carl Urban, but he's got range.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and I just was kind of getting that vibe from him, and I think he's already showing he's got some range with the two movies. I couldn't imagine his role in Crazy Rich Asians is very similar to this one.
No. The other one that came out, I was trying to remember, 2018, there's another movie that I think is criminally underseen. It's called A Simple Favor. It's got him, Anna Kendrick, and Blake Lively in it. It's a Paul Feig movie, but it's not the type of Paul Feig movie that you would imagine it to be.
It's not like Bridesmaids?
No, it's much more dramatic and everything. I liked it a whole bunch. I would recommend anybody watch that.
Simple Favor, the one where Anna Kendrick met her brother that she didn't know until her father died, or is that a different movie?
I think that's a different one. Stephanie's a single mother with a parenting vlog who befriends Emily, a secretive upper-class woman, and like there's some people get killed and a whole bunch of stuff. It's good.
Okay.
It's good stuff. But it came out same year as Crazy Rich Asians. So 2018 was the Henry Golding
Big year for Golding.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I like him, man. And I had high hopes for this movie. I don't want to show my hand too soon by saying what I thought, but I had high hopes for this movie just simply from the fact that he was cast as Snake Eyes. Like to me, I'm thinking this is a guy who's had a super successful box office career. He's probably a pretty good actor. He's up and coming. They didn't just hire like what's a recognizable name we can get for not too much money. You know what I mean? Like they hired a real actor, in my opinion. So I kind of started thinking like they've got some high hopes, or at least they have grand intentions for this movie.
Scott Speedman is Snake Eyes. Boom. Like somebody that's as like boring and generic as Scott Speedman. He's got like an awesome name, but like everything else about him is the most generic thing ever. That's the guy who they should get for Snake Eyes. Just boring.
Man, and the drawback is, though, not much of a supporting cast here, is there?
No, and like, so here's let me set the table for you, Bruce.
Except I thought Hard Master was kind of like a. I felt like he was channeling a little Tom Hardy, like literally a little Tom Hardy because he's a short guy. But
Well, Tom Hardy's a little guy too.
yeah,
We just
maybe
shoot.
that's where I saw the connection.
we
Short guy with big ears.
We shoot Tom Hardy like he's a giant man, but Tom Hardy's like 5'7", 5'9", something like that. He's not that big. Actually, it's probably closer to 5'7". He's a tiny dude.
And you know, the guy that played Blind Master was recognizable to me too, but I don't know from what.
I mean, here. Let me set the table for you. Here's what happens for me. It gets to be Friday. I'm off on Friday. Very rare thing for me. So I go to my movie theater because it's my movie theater, and I go in. I'm ready for Snake Eyes. It's about 4:00 in the afternoon. I get loaded up. I got some popcorn. I got like a guacamole burger. I swapped out the fries for a salad, trying to be a little bit healthier.
Nice.
And I had 2 gin and tonics, and I watched Snake Eyes. And my food was great.
Okay, so
I focused more on, like, honestly, I had more of a fun time eating my meal than I did watching this movie because I remember more of the meal.
Discussion because I had a lot of fun with this movie. Now I'm not saying it's a great movie, but I'm saying, okay, I'm looking back. What was the last new release at the box office we covered? Was it Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, I mean, outside of like Black Widow and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, Black Widow. That's Marvel DC. That's kind of its own thing. But
Yeah.
I'm like, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, so how does this stand up against Mortal Kombat? Because I was expecting about a Mortal Kombat experience, and I found this to be way more interesting. Now, if you're a diehard G.I. Joe fan, maybe it just depends on what kind of fan you are. But if you're like a Well Actually guy, you might not like it because they took some serious liberties with that origin story. I mean, as I told you, the difference between what's more canon, and then there's even like a different version of the origin story where they're kids and stuff. But I found this really interesting. I thought, hey, okay, because I've seen 2 G.I. Joe movies, neither of which is all that great.
Yeah, they're fine, but nothing to write home about.
And Snake Eyes, pretty much everybody's favorite G.I. Joe character. I mean, that's why
he's the coolest.
He's the Wolverine. He's the Wolverine of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
That's why he gets his own movie.
100%.
And of course, I'm thinking it's going to be about like those others, but maybe the special effects are a little bit better. Maybe the runtime is going to be a little shorter so that it snaps better. They're going to be a little more focused. And then I go in, I'm like, whoa, they're actually trying to make a movie here. Now, whether or not it works for you, that's everything's subjective, and I'm not going to try to make an argument that this is a cinematic achievement or anything, but I'm having a lot of fun. I like it that here, I'm just going to lay it out. Here's what I feel like they were going for. Now, they didn't quite succeed unless you scale everything down from where you're starting from.
Mm-hmm.
But before I went to see Batman Begins, or actually, I think I had no interest in Batman Begins, and I saw it on home video way back then.
Wow.
I thought this is Warner Brothers, DC trying to actually make a prequel, like a Phantom Menace style prequel for the Tim Burton Batman movie. That's what I thought Batman Begins was going to be. And then I go see this Christopher Nolan take on Batman with Batman Begins. So I guess if you scale down the quality of Tim Burton's 2 Batman movies, if you scale them down to the level of the 2 G.I. Joe movies, then you scale down Batman Begins, and I think you're right about there here. Like I think this is the Batman Begins of the G.I. Joe universe. They really tried to take a little bit more of a real world look at it and be a little darker. Now, there's a couple of things, or at least one thing that really kind of sticks out in this movie that I'm feeling like, oh, okay, so this is kind of like their version of Ra's al Ghul, and here he is learning to be a ninja. I'm into it, except when Scarlett comes into the movie, and I love Samara Weaving, but Scarlett feels like she's in those previous G.I. Joe movies and not in this one.
Yeah. With the outfit and everything, it's like, all right. Okay.
I mean, they even kind of changed Baroness quite a bit to give her like an update. They changed Baroness to the same degree that they changed Scarecrow for Batman Begins. It's like, wow, this is, or, how much Bane is different from the comic books. It's like, wow, this is kind of an interesting take here. They're trying to make this something that you can see how this would have inspired that cartoon rather than trying to replicate it. So I really got like, hey, they're going for Batman Begins here. Of course, they're also going for Avengers Infinity War and Endgame here too. They're introducing an Infinity Stone here in this first movie. I think they're saying, okay, we'll take the best of DC, the Nolan verse. We'll take the best of Marvel, Infinity War and Endgame. We're rip both of those off, and we're gonna put one little piece of the original G.I. Joe movies in here with Scarlet. But I thought it was interesting that they were doing this, and I was actually kind of thinking it was cool that, you know, we see a movie where Storm Shadow's working with G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes is working with Cobra. How's this all going to get flipped around? Like, I was really interested in it. They didn't entirely deliver, but it was enough that I thought this is better than Mortal Kombat. So I was happier to be here for this one than I was for Mortal Kombat. Took my 2 sons with me, and the smart one who sleeps through everything, he slept through it.
I can see that.
I convinced him that we sat through it twice because I didn't want to wake him up. Like,
that's hilarious. You had a wake up little Susie moment.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Let me get your thoughts on this, because I don't know. Like, I think we've mentioned it on the show previously, but it garners repeating, I think. Do you remember like when they showed Pulp Fiction on television, they actually put in like a scene that was actually deleted where Uma Thurman brings in a video camera and asks Travolta's character questions and stuff.
Vinny
yes.
Vega?
Mm-hmm. So she asks him all of these questions, and one of the questions is that, you know, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, you know, there are 2 types of people in the world: Elvis people and Beatles people. Now, Beatles people can like Elvis, and Elvis people can like Beatles, but Beatles people can't like Elvis as much, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So
gotcha.
At one point at time, you have to make a delineation. And I think growing up, there was certainly that case for G.I. Joe and Transformers. Do you find that to be the case?
Oh, absolutely. And I would say it's even, you know how she said you can like the Beatles and Elvis, but you have to like one more than the other. That's true. But I would say with G.I. Joe and Transformers, you had to like both, just because the way they were delivered in 1986.
Yeah.
Like, they came on one right after the other after school for a whole generation of latchkey kids. So you had to like both. But I was a G.I. Joe guy. I was always a G.I. Joe guy first, Transformers guy second.
I was a little bit more into Transformers than G.I. Joe, but even then I wasn't like a super big Transformers kid. I think most of it's because we couldn't afford the toys.
Exactly. I think that's what it came down to for me. And I liked Army Men. You know, it started from when I was a little kid with just the plain green Army Men that come in a bag and stuff like that. And I liked watching World War II movies and putting World War II airplane models together and stuff. I was just kind of into that.
My favorite thing to do with G.I. Joes, and I didn't have a whole bunch, and like other people did, and like, you know, but to experiment on your G.I. Joes, you know what I'm talking about? You flip them over, they got the little screw in the back, you take that screw out, and then you can pop out heads and arms and stuff and rearrange and make your ultimate super G.I. Joe sort of thing. We did that kind of crap all the time.
Yeah, and you know, the price point, the accessibility was a big part of it. Now, I didn't have all the vehicles. I didn't have all the figures that came with vehicles, but the on-card figures, at one point I managed to collect an entire wave. Wow. I don't have any of them now, but at one point I had an entire wave. And then for Christmas is when you'd ask for things like the airplane and the bridge. The bridge layer was the first vehicle I ever got. Bazooka was the first card figure I ever got. Like, wow. I remember G.I. Joe so fondly. Transformers, I might have had a couple here and there. I just, you know, at that point in time, it was like $5. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers, but it was like $5 versus $20. So today,
that sounds about right.
Today it'd probably be more like $9 versus $50 or something. But yeah, it was a pretty big difference there. Like, I could get one G.I. Joe figure a week. I could only get a Transformer, or maybe every 2 weeks. I could only get a Transformer on birthdays and Christmas.
The big ones and stuff. And by the way, tip for the parents and everything. When I was growing up, we didn't have a whole bunch of money, but now more so than G.I. Joe or Transformers, I was all about some He-Man, right?
Yeah,
and so we got Castle Grayskull for Christmas. It was from a garage sale. We didn't know. It didn't have a box. They just put wrapping paper around it, and we were so stoked to have Castle Grayskull that we were just like, they didn't tell us till like, you know, years and years and years later, and it's just like, yeah, boy, we did not care, did we?
I got to give your parents credit for that, man. I would have loved it if my family had done that. But, you know, that like they would rather get me the Wish brand Castle Grayskull that's new than go to a yard sale and get me a used one. I would have much rather had the yard sale one.
We just were happy to have it, and it was just like, what? Oh, got the Castle Grayskull because it was so expensive if you bought it new.
My cousin was the Kenner Star Wars collector. Like, he had everything under the sun. He was a little spoiled. You know, my uncle had a nice job. My mom didn't. So he was a little spoiled with the Star Wars stuff. My younger brother, 6 years younger, so he was in that prime Masters of the Universe age group, because I was like old enough I mean, I was young enough that I still really kind of liked the cartoon. And if my friends had the toys, I'd play with them. But I was old enough that I felt like I was more into either Star Wars, G.I. Joe, or Transformers, the Masters of the Universe. But I still liked them. I just didn't collect a bunch of them.
Yeah. We had more Ninja Turtles and stuff. But if you get into the weird stuff, then I'm always a Silverhawks fan. I don't know how many people remember Silverhawks, but that show was great.
This isn't quite as weird as Silverhawks, but it's Hasbro out there. Mask was like my favorite.
Mask was good too. Mask was like, that's elementary school for me.
Because it almost completely disappeared from the public consciousness for a while, and now it's having a strong comeback.
Yeah, weren't they planning on doing a movie or something for that?
Hey, yeah, they were. It was supposed to cross over. They were going to have a Hasbro shared universe.
Oh, right, where they were going to go like, we're going to take all the G.I. Joe stuff. We're going to take all of the
G.I. Joe, ROM, Micronauts, Transformers, and Mask.
Gee whiz.
Yeah, and so far we've gotten one movie in that share. It's starting to sound like the Universal movie monster shared universe.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. So we've got like this the pinnacle of examples in Marvel. Marvel does it better than anybody else out there. Even if you're a giant hardcore DC fan, I don't think that you can deny that Marvel has the best track record of anyone out there. I think that's hard to
also
deny.
Hasbro's kind of forgetting that like Marvel's shared universe, DC shared universe, it makes sense because all these characters are in the Avengers, all these characters are on the Justice League. Mm-hmm. But growing up, it was a little bit later before they had a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover comic book or cartoon. Like they were in their own worlds. They weren't in a shared universe the way that Marvel and DC characters are. This would be more like when they have the inevitable Marvel Star Wars crossover. Like they have Guardians of the Galaxy meet some people from Star Wars.
Yeah, like I don't. I want people to
Hasbro,
start focusing.
You don't have to push a shared universe where G.I. Joe and Transformers cross over. What you can do is instead give us more movies like Snake Eyes and Bumblebee that build up to a group movie that makes sense.
Exactly, and I think ultimately what we need to do, or what they need. Who's this? Paramount? I don't know. Who
Paramount.
I don't know who put this out. The smart thing that they should do is exactly right. Is start with characters and then build up to a thing. That's where really DC lost its way. With Justice League coming out before any real solo movies, save for like Superman and stuff, it's very, very confusing and just so weird that it's like that. And I think ultimately it kind of tarnish the brand a little bit as far as like, live action stuff goes and everything, because they're just all over the place. Now we've got, rumor is that, Ben Affleck's suiting up as Batman again. We got Robert Pattinson as Batman, and Michael Keaton's going to be a Batman. 2022, we're going to have 3 different Batmans, for heaven's sake. Like, we don't know what's going on in the world. And I would hope that Paramount would learn from these things.
Yeah, I think the Michael Keaton thing's in Flashpoint where he goes to parallel universes and it absolutely makes sense.
No, I'm not saying it's not okay. I'm just saying it's.
But anyway, yeah, I see what you're getting at, and that's another reason I kind of like that Snake Eyes. Here, I want to talk about what I like, but there's also something I don't like. Mm-hmm. There's something everybody doesn't like, but it could have been pulled out at the end. But I like it that we're getting to see an origin story for a G.I. Joe character. Okay, mm-hmm. and then we're going to have a little bit of a point of view character. We're going to have some investment if any future movies come out, which I don't know how this is doing because, I know it was a soft weekend. It lost an M. Night Shyamalan movie at the box office. That's never a good thing unless that movie's like Sixth Sense, Yeah. But anyway, I do like that it's given us an individual character. I do like that they're trying to give it sort of a Nolan light treatment. I mean, obviously nobody can repeat what Nolan did necessarily, but I feel like they're going for that. They're like, okay, this old G.I. Joe that you were used to, we're going to give you something for a more modern audience, but it's still going to have some interest in the roots in Larry Hama's stories. Even though they change the particulars, they kind of keep the feel of it in place. And I could see if they did this for Snake Eyes and then Snake Eyes sequel would be in with G.I. Joe, then maybe you get a Cobra Commander movie, sort of like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, like people are like, wow, because there's some interesting stuff about Cobra Commander's origin story that you could take and almost make it very similar to the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie. I think there's something fun to do here. And, all these stuff I'm comparing it to, you got to dial it down a little bit because it's G.I. Joe. Like when I'm saying you do something like the Joker, I'm not under any false impression that it's going to be as good as the Joker. I'm just saying, how about you do go back to the comic book origin where, believe it or not, Cobra Commander started off as a used car salesman that just had too many bad days. It's like the Joker kind of starts like a Mr. Nobody that has a breaking, what was that falling down moment and then turns into something. So I think there's interesting stuff they could do here. The problem is they got to pick that lane, because they're giving us the Christopher Nolan sort of take on G.I. Joe. And then they're also giving us the Avengers and that Infinity Stone take. And those are very different takes. They're both like two of the best takes in all of comic book movie history, but they're different takes, Yeah.
It's a weird line to walk and everything. Now, the budget for this movie was $88 million. Would you like to take a guess at the current worldwide gross?
I'm going to say the U.S. box office opening weekend was about 15. So I'm going to say triple that, about 45.
Ooh, you would be incorrect. Worldwide gross at this current point is 28.7.
Oh, it did not do well overseas.
I don't think it may not be open too much overseas.
It may not have released in China yet or something.
There's probably one or two like decent sized territories, but even so, this it went from number 2 at the box office all the way down to number 6 this past week. So 1 week it is out of the top 5 is not good.
This has no streaming platform to fall back on either.
No, I mean, you'd think that maybe we could put it out on Paramount Plus or something like that to kind of.
Is UPN still around? Do you remember that channel?
Oh man, I was all about some UPN and the WB.
Which one had Shasta McNasty on it? I liked whatever channel that came on.
Was that? I thought that was that Fox? I thought that was Fox.
I thought it was either UPN or WB.
First of all, we got to look this up. Shasta McNasty.
So that's too bad because I understand it's not a good movie, but neither were the first 2 G.I. Joe movies. I think this is going in a direction that could lead somewhere, but it sounds like with that box office, it's leading to the reboot territory. We're going to get another Snake Eyes movie with a whole new gimmick here in about 5 years.
Probably. Shasta McNasty, 1 season, 22 episodes on the UPN network.
See, credit one to me for a really weird memory.
Yeah. He's digging all the way back to what year is this?
It's about 2000.
99, 2000 was their season.
I can remember I was doing an away rotation in Chapel Hill, staying in a little hotel room, and all I had to watch one evening was Shasta McNasty.
Bro, he comes into work the next day. Bro, you guys heard this new awesome show called Shasta McNasty? I'm telling you, it's going to be the next Seinfeld.
So back to Snake Eyes here. Now, the thing that really has to be addressed, like no matter if you're the people that made the movie, you're somebody who just watched the movie, you're doing whatever it is we're doing. I don't know if these are reviews or criticism or just chatty Cathy stuff. But Snake Eyes is talking. And
yes.
The one character trait that Snake Eyes is, 2 character traits that Snake Eyes is most famous for.
Cool
outfit. You never see his face and he never talks. And that's part of Larry Hama's genius is how do you make a character who never talks so interesting and so compelling? And part of that might be a little tabula rasa, the blank slate so you can project yourself onto it. You never see his face, which is supposed to be hideously scarred. You never hear his voice. This movie, I got no problem with him talking throughout the movie.
Henry Gold is too good looking. You can't wrap that face up.
But this is an origin story. The big finale has to leave him disfigured, and maybe his vocal cords are cut, or disfigured and he takes a vow of silence to make up for his sins,
Yeah.
But like this is the origin story, so it's absolutely fine that you're starting with a totally different Snake Eyes than you're used to. But like you don't have an origin trilogy usually, right? Like you have an origin story, and by the next movie he needs to be the Snake Eyes we know. He needed to be silent by the end of this movie, I think.
No, I agree, and it's one of the tough parts to do to have a movie that's quiet and just doesn't, and people don't talk. Let me ask you this, because I don't know this. In the comics and stuff, did they have like a lot of like, I don't know, what's the, this better than I would. Not the word balloons. What's the other one that's kind of like, I always call them like parentheticals.
They're called captions. Thought bubbles are probably what you're thinking of, but they're called captions. They quit using thought bubbles, started using they're simply called captions. They probably have some of those with Snake Eyes, but Larry Hama has famously had some really, really respected at least one Snake Eyes centered issue that did not have a single letter in it. It was all just images.
Oh,
and,
well,
you know,
he
some
had
other
enough
comic
said
book-
moment. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
There have
filling
been
out a
other
book.
comic writers who've had those, what they call silent movie comics, where there's nothing but the images. I saw really good when Damian Wayne died. I think it was Grant Morrison had a really, really good silent issue of Batman, or Batman and Robin, or Batman Inc., or whatever it was in. but yeah, they really do a good job with him.
Those were always
And-
rough comics to pick up, because especially like in the modern day when like comics are $4 and you just go like, it was like 2 minutes to read that. I paid $5 to read that. It took 2 minutes.
You read it wrong.
I guess so. Like, and I read slow enough with comics. I try to, enjoy myself.
Over the pictures.
Yeah, I look at the art. I read the dialogue as dialogue would be read in that particular pace and everything. I'm not rushing through a book. I don't do that.
But this is the Snake Eyes origin story. It's a standalone Snake Eyes movie. I understand it's difficult to have a silent lead actor, silent main character.
yeah.
Although, imagine how impressed you would have been at the filmmaker if they'd pulled it off. Like, this is something, if Nolan made this movie, he would have insisted that Snake Eyes not talk and have 90% of the screen time. And he would have probably made it work.
Well, I see so much action in this movie to where it's almost just like, was there talking in this movie? It's like, I think that's
Plus,
my
you-
biggest gripe, is I just didn't have enough like solid
Yeah.
story and characters to grasp onto enough to make
See,
me really care when the violence was going down.
I really felt it with him and Snake Eyes, with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I mean, I really like this development. I like how it takes the sort of the feeling of the origin story from the comics and the cartoon, and it tells it in a new way. Now, I'll tell you, early on, I was not liking Storm Shadow. I was like, this is going to be their Storm Shadow. The guy's jawline looked kind of weak. I wasn't buying it. By the end, I was all in on him as Storm Shadow. I do
capable.
think, though, you have Golding make this great movie, if it were a great movie, but you have Golding, you're paying a lot of money. It's a really good actor. You're trying to build this new franchise, the reboot of the franchise. You have him make this movie, but at the end, he's disfigured and he can't talk. So then you get like just awesome, whatever this generation's Ray Park is. You get a guy who can do the fighting.
A
And
Scott
he's in the suit.
Speedman.
You never see his face. You never hear his voice, but you see some awesome fighting. You even have a few jokes where like Scarlet is really concerned about something and she talks and talks and talks and he doesn't say anything. By the end, she's like, wow, that's the best advice I've ever gotten. Thank you. And walks away. That kind of joke.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, very good. but they treated Black Noir like that a little bit too, though, didn't they? Like he would.
Yes, they did.
They were just
And,
like, okay.
Black Noir in the comics, The Boys, he is a total Batman, but he really was way more of a Snake Eyes on the TV show, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was great. He's just
Yeah,
over
so-
there just giving thumbs up and stuff like, yeah, we're good.
And I just wish that by the end of this movie, they had developed Snake Eyes into who he was going to be. Maybe in this new universe, their idea is, hey, we have if they can make Wolverine 6'2", then I guess I can make Snake Eyes talk. Because nobody's saying that Jackman was a bad Wolverine.
Yeah, we
I'm
all
not
started
saying
like, oh, he might be too tall for this. And then
Yeah.
like 2 seconds in, we're just like, nah, he's good.
And then, Golding, I'm not going to say he's a bad Snake Eyes, but I kind of like my Snake Eyes being silent. I think that's one of the most endearing parts. That's what makes that character stand out. How many really good mute characters can you think of, to be honest? And in fact, I really tried to turn that one character I wrote for 2000 AD into a Snake Eyes type. And they said, no, she's got to talk. So, that changed.
You're trying to get paid for writing less letters? Get out of here, you chump.
Well, I wanted to do it all with just thought captions, but no actual speaking. And then I tried to do the Rorschach thing. You know how Rorschach speaks kind of in an odd, particular way.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, the editor knows me, and he's like, "You're not going to Rorschach this character. Come on, straighten up."
That's fantastic. Now, we've got something a little bit different from this show. I would like these things to happen a little bit more often. But someone I work with was a giant G.I. Joe fan, thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I invited him on the podcast because I thought that he might be able to come on. I had a feeling Sean's Cracker Factory was going to go a little overtime. So I was just like, hey, if you want to come on, he's working, unfortunately, but I had him send in a voicemail here. Giving his review here of G.I. Joe, just to give a little different perspective. We always like a third heat here on HMP, so let's give Brandon a couple of seconds here to tell us his thoughts about Snake Eyes. Here we go. Hopefully it loads.
So what I really loved about Snake Eyes was the fact that it is mainly a soft reboot of the G.I. Joe movie franchise and how they change a few things up. Kind of like how in the original G.I. Joe movie franchise, you saw Snake Eyes' somewhat origin. When he was a little kid, he just kind of, I don't know, he took a vow of silence when he was a kid because he failed to protect his master from a fellow student. But now in this one, obviously, he's a grown adult. He hasn't taken the vow of silence. And it's not just a fellow student, but a close friend of his. And it also kind of does the opposite of what, say, like the Disney villain origin movies have been doing here lately, like with Cruella and Maleficent, my bad. They kind of make us sympathize with the villain of the older movies and kind of shows the softer side of them and shows that they're not all bad. With this one, it kind of takes an honor or someone who's supposed to be an honorable hero, and it kind of shows us that they're not all good. Because obviously with this movie, he did do some bad, and majority of the plot is actually because of his mistakes that he made earlier in his, earlier in the movie, earlier in his life. I do like his origin of the name, Snake Eyes. It kind of shows the loaded dice and him getting revenge for his father. My main one gripe with this movie is the CGI definitely could have been better. At the very end, we see the iconic Snake Eyes costume. We see the visor kind of form over his eyes, but you could definitely tell that they just kind of CGI'd his eyes over the visor before it closed. Kind of the opposite of what they did with Ryan Reynolds' CGI Green Lantern mask in the 2011 Green Lantern, but we don't talk about that here.
We don't.
I do hope that this movie does very well because I do want to see more G.I. Joe movies. Me, myself, being a long-time G.I. Joe fan from when I was like knee-high. I've always been a G.I. Joe fan, and Snake Eyes has always been one of my favorite characters. This movie is definitely, in my opinion, probably the best G.I. Joe movie they've done. I know they did Raz of Cobra and Retaliation, but this one is definitely better. And also the acting was great. Henry Goulding, I couldn't have asked for a better actor to play Snake Eyes. The gentleman who played Storm Shadow, unfortunately, I don't know his name, but he is also in the HBO Max series Warrior. He's very good. He brought the action acting chops to this movie. Samara Weaving, she got cast as Scarlet. And for those of you who have ever seen Samara Weaving's movies, main one that pops to my head is Ready or Not. She definitely is a badass when she wants to be. In this movie, she definitely brings that to the character of Scarlet. My favorite casting was Henry Goulding. I mainly know him from A Simple Favor, which obviously isn't a action movie, but still a great movie in its own right. And Henry Goulding did a fantastic job, and I thought he brought that into this movie. And also, Henry Goulding and the actor who played Storm Shadow, they're both of Asian heritage, so everything felt very authentic. And as someone who has been to Asia, everything, I don't know if it was filmed on site in Japan, but everything felt very, very authentic. And it just makes me excited to see what they have in the future in store for G.I. Joe. And hopefully this movie does well at the box office to warrant them to make further movies.
Brandon, thanks for your voicemail there, buddy.
Yeah, that was a really, really good, like his points were well organized, and he sounds like he's on the same page as me.
Yeah.
But yes, that was an excellent voicemail. You never know what you're going to get with a voicemail,
No, and I didn't play it ahead of time either, so I was just like, boy, I hope this is decent.
So,
but
yes,
it was.
I like what Brandon had to say there. I think he and I are on the same page, but he's a little more pro Snake Eyes even than I am. But I'm still Team Snake Eyes. Been a little heartbroken to hear about the box office.
Yeah, I think the box office may have a little bit of a problem there, but hey, what are you going to do? Before we get to our review here and everything, we do have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how does this movie relate back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone? And I don't know if you've heard this or not before, but I have a not so prepared statement.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam, and I decided to try to take a nap today instead of write a Stallone connection when Sean said he wasn't going to be able to be here today. But I did lie in the bed a little bit and kind of scroll around on the IMDb's there and everything. And wouldn't you know it, lo and behold, as we do every bloody week on this show, I found somebody that relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone. This week's Stallone connection is Marjorie Simkin. Marjorie Simkin was the casting director for this movie. And let me tell you a little bit about Marjorie. Marjorie has got a killer's row of just awesome stuff. First one that you'll recognize right at the top, Beverly Hills Cop. Not too shabby, right? Then she would follow that up with a little movie called Top Gun. Then another movie in that same year, Little Shop of Horrors, Critical Condition, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Field of Dreams, Mermaids. Mermaids? No, okay, maybe not Mermaids.
Any of those.
Richie Rich, The Indian in the Cupboard, 12 Monkeys, Dragonheart, In and Out, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, surprise, Life, Bowfinger. She's done a ton of stuff. Aaron Brockovich, for heaven's sake, The Score, Death to Smoochie. This lady is all over the place. And of course, she also did XXX State of the Union. So there's that. And Avatar. She cast the Avatar movie as well. But she also cast a tiny little movie by one Italian meatball sandwich, Sylvester Stallone, entitled Daylight from 1996. Have you seen Daylight?
Ironically named Daylight.
Yeah, because there is no daylight because you're stuck inside of it. Well, it was a tunnel, right? Yeah.
Lincoln Tunnel or
Lincoln Tunnel, something like that. It was a New York tunnel and all there. But, Viggo Mortensen in that one. He went over the top for all that stuff. But that was Rob Cohen. That's the guy who did like Dragonheart and all that. So I can tell you right here, right now, that's the relationship. She works on a lot of Rob Cohen movies. So that is your Stallone connection for this week, everybody. A little haphazardly prepared, but Marjorie Simkin, you are this week's Stallone connection. Sean will do better next week.
And still no word from Sylvester Stallone.
Still no word from Sylvester Stallone. So I don't know. Oh, and by the way, as we record this, yesterday was Frank Stallone's birthday. Happy birthday, Frank.
Oh, man.
Tell you what.
I love that song of his, that Far From Over.
I like... If you want your Patreon money to be spent on a Frank Stallone cameo, let us know.
That would be so good.
And he does a fantastic Stallone impression. So if you guys want us to do a Stallone cameo, but not that Stallone, the other Stallone,
Frank, that would be great.
We'll just see. Okay, so here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you want to check that out, head on over to reddit.com/r/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, where does
I'm going high on this one. I had fun. I thought the action was fun. I thought Golding's performance was good. Hearing Brandon talk up the guy that played Storm Shadow. I know I've heard big things about Warrior on HBO Max, though I haven't seen it. So I'm liking this. I want people to go see it if they can. If it's still playing, please go see it, man. This is a good movie. It's an okay movie. It's an okay movie, but I'm still giving it a Tim Drake.
We almost went down 3 rabbit holes there for a second. You were like, it's a great movie. It's an okay movie. I went to it, okay? Like you almost went down that line.
When compared to Mortal Kombat, this wins for me, no questions asked.
That's fair enough. For me, this movie, I'm going to be generous. Okay. I think I'm going to be generous for what I want to give. I'm going to go Damian Wayne on this, mostly because I believe I need to see this again.
But the guacamole burger gets
the guacamole burger gets Dick Grayson all the day. Like it was, I don't know, it was so good. The bacon on the burger was just perfect. The gin and tonics were lovely. I had a great time. The great time didn't really involve Snake Eyes all that much. And I think I may have just been distracted, but I do need to see it again because I'm a big action guy.
Do you get free passes?
Oh yeah, I walk into everything.
Yeah, go see it, man. If you can go see it for free, just go see it. Give it another chance. Watch it through fresh eyes.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a couple of days, and then I'll sneak in a little here and there and just kind of catch it in pieces and stuff.
You know what? This is unprecedented, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Sean hated it.
Oh, I'm gonna go on a giant limb. He didn't have a chance to see it because Cracker Factory's busting his booty.
But if he did see it, he would have hated it.
But if he saw it, he would have. Yeah, he'd Damian Wayne. Or no, wait, what's the Jason Todd did this bad boy all day long? I believe. If I'm
man, imagine if he went without sleep for 2 consecutive nights just so he could watch this movie.
Oh, I want to see the movie of him watching this movie after being like. You remember that time?
Video.
Exactly. Remember that time when Shia LaBeouf like put a camera on him as he watched a film marathon of his movies in a theater?
Weird.
Barry, that's what I figure. And hilarious part is just watching his face evolve through the time when he goes like he's clearly embarrassed of the movie that they're playing, and he's just like got his hands over his face. I see that with Sean in Snake Eyes. I just want to have the movie of him watching this and squirming in his seat, going like, "Ah, this is a piece of crap. Why did they have a Cracker Factory?" But do you guys got some more overtime for me? But he'll be back next week when we're doing. I'm not sure. Did we come up with something?
Suicide Squad.
Oh, that's
theatrical
right.
Release of a big
Holy
2
cow.
movie. James Gunn, our guy,
getting some high praise out there, and people are just saying like, you thought Guardians was good. This is better than Guardians. That's what people are saying. I don't know. I don't know. I ain't been there, but getting a lot of hype. So I'm super excited to see that. So we'll be talking about the Suicides. Is it the Suicide Squad or is this one Suicide?
The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad here next week. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Hey, if you love Attack on Titan, you're in luck because I just finished up season 1 of Attack on Titan. Got my final reaction video up there. Going to have a big season 1 review of Attack on Titan coming out on Tuesday, which is probably tomorrow for a lot of you folks. So go to youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. And there's also Jujutsu Kaisen. There's Demon Slayer. There's other stuff there too. But go check out my YouTube channel.
Yeah, boys, been working. Links are in the description for that. And if you like Marvel TV shows, why don't you check out our Marvel 30 Questions podcast? We did Loki. We also did WandaVision. We also threw in a little bit of Falcon and the Winter Soldier there as well. So the 30 Questions format is going strong. And whenever another live action show comes up, we'll be doing another one of those on that. So check all those out if you haven't. We really appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking about the Suicide Squad. For the absent, sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Goodbye, Marty and Evie.